You're listening to the Oneofus.net podcast network.
They come from the bowels of hell, guided by a master plan for complete domination of the earth.
It arouses such emotion that the management has been forced to state positively no refunds.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the second episode of our Stephen King exploration on Deliberations of Doom. If you haven't checked out our first episode, we apparently ramble on about Montreal and Dark Tower, and then we get into a couple of Stephen King movies. We're trying to talk about more not obscure, but maybe underrated or forgotten Stephen King stuff, not the big ones.
Lesser seen.
Yeah, lesser seen. That's a good way to put it. We don't want to disparage them, at least not all of them.
Phil does.
Yeah, Phil doesn't want to disparage all of them. No, I don't. Let's not make Phil the bad guy yet.
Yeah, it's coming.
Let's let him become the bad guy.
Like a Stephen King novel, he will emerge as the bad guy. My character arc, I'm just starting. I'm getting to the top.
So the last one we talked about Firestarter and Cujo, two I thought kind of rad 80s Stephen King movies. So we're going to move on. We got a lot to get through, so let's get to it right now. The next one up is it Silver Bullet?
It's Silver Bullet.
No fucking around.
And, yeah.
Phil seems to have something to say about this, so we're going to let him explain the plot of Silver Bullet.
Okay. Silver Bullet is a werewolf tale based on a book called Cycle of the Werewolf. And it's about a kid who's paralyzed in a wheelchair, and his uncle who helps him do cool shit and drinks a lot of beer and
wild turkey.
A lot of wild turkey, and probably likes buffalo wings and shit like that.
Yeah.
And people, and like it's pretty much the end of school, and the full moons come out, and people start dying suddenly because no one died before that for some reason. I don't know what happened, especially when their entire premise is. It's the cycle of the werewolf. He's always a werewolf. He's just more a werewolf on the full moon. But yet, apparently, at the end of school, he just starts killing people. So there's a big, plot hole right there. Don Coscarelli was originally supposed to direct it, and he had a debate with creative difference with the Italian guy, the
Dino
producer
De
guy.
Laurentiis.
Yeah, that guy. Versace. He got in trouble with Versace and broke it off. And Gucci. Him and Gucci got in trouble. But it's fun. I like this movie only because it's nostalgic to me, because I liked it when I was a kid. And I watched it again, and I'm like, man, a lot doesn't make sense. Like, I mean, people start dying. Like Corey Haim's best friend dies.
Yeah.
A day later, he's climbing out his window to pop fireworks in the woods. Your friend
it's a day later.
Okay, a week later, whatever. You don't climb out and just, pop fireworks. Your friend was dismembered. Like, his head was, destroyed, and I don't know. Like, lots of things don't add up. And my thing is, too, werewolf movies are really fucking hard to do when your werewolf looks like shit.
Well, that's actually one of the reasons why the original director quit, was they got into a big fight over what the werewolf suit was supposed to look like.
They spent 3 months on it.
Yeah.
And it looked like a mask from a horror
controversy.
Yeah.
Stephen King originally wanted a very subtle off-camera werewolf. That's what he asked for. And Dino De Laurentiis was like, no, we're going to do it this way. And then the original director, who they spent 3 months working on this werewolf suit, was like, there's our werewolf. Yeah.
Who directed Phantasm and Bubba Hotep.
Yeah, exactly.
And Beastmaster.
That's right.
Beastmaster is my favorite.
Yeah.
But, so they, here's our werewolf reveal, and Dino De Laurentiis hated it. And he was like, no. And so they ended up going, an impasse. And then the director was like, okay, fine, fuck you, and he quit. And then eventually, a couple months later, they hired another director, and then
Daniel Attias.
Yeah.
Who's a great director, great TV director.
He's a multiple Emmy Award-winning TV director for lots of big
Guys
good
directed
shows,
True Detective and a whole bunch of other stuff.
But this is the only theatrical release he ever made.
Yeah, he made the smart movie. He went right into TV.
Yeah.
And
he works like a motherfucker.
Oh, he works all the time, and it's great. But this movie's highly flawed, but fun.
It's a fun movie.
I mean, is there any movie where Gary Busey is one of the top stars that can't give some point to?
This and Point Break are his two best movies.
Seriously.
As far as he's allowed
they're cornerstones of his reputation.
Because in all honesty, he's allowed to improv, and you can tell in there, the dinner scene, he knocks the guy's drink down, and then Corey Haim says a line, and he forgets to reply back, and then he goes to shake Corey Haim's hand, and Corey's not even paying attention, and he just keeps going with it, and it makes it feel so natural and believable that Gary Gary is fucking amazing in this movie. And I want him to be my uncle.
Let's you got to mention the Buddy Holly story because that was
he was nominated for an Oscar.
He's incredible.
Oscar nomination.
In that movie. And then unfortunately later he got brain damage from a motorcycle accident and was never the same at all.
And I would like to mention that he actually ad-libbed most of his lines in this movie.
It is very obvious.
Yeah.
But it's great.
But he did too. Like he did the straight up screenplay lines and then he ad-libbed and they went with the ad-lib lines every single time.
But he also made sure King was okay with it, which I love. That he
Stephen King is the one who insisted they use the ad-lib version.
Exactly right. Which I love that. There's no ego in that at all. It's like, hey, is it cool? I appreciate you. And
we have a buddy who was a director of photography on a Gary Busey movie, and that is very much the way he works. He's very in the moment, making up stuff, whatever. And I said, was that tough? And he goes, yeah, but it feels like a movie when he does it. And I feel like this movie benefits from his sort of charisma, his personality, and his improvisation.
He's the most interesting thing in this movie.
Sure. Absolutely.
As the no good.
It's a neat character.
No good to the parents, but awesome uncle that we all wish we had.
He's a great character. Yeah. I think I think that idea of what he is he adds a lot of the color and the spice to the
He is a very King, deeply flawed protagonist, but the difference between him and other King's deeply flawed protagonists is usually they're in the middle of regretting the way they were and coming out of that and afraid of coming back to it. He's the one guy who's like, no, I'm totally fine with how I am.
No, yeah, he is.
I'm a drunk and
I think also the movie emphasizes his love for his niece and nephew. Yeah. It overemphasizes almost like he just really loves them, and he more importantly understands them in a way that he tries to explain to the parents, you guys don't understand them, I get them.
No. Honestly, I think it's his best performance since Surviving the Game, which I'm sorry, but Surviving the Game, he's amazing in that movie.
Wow.
Yeah, with
somebody busted out of Surviving the Game. Directed by Ernest Dickerson. Yeah.
You just pulled that knowledge out of the air?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Rutger Hauer. Charles S. Dutton.
Yeah,
man.
Look, I don't know what you're doing, but pause this podcast and go watch Surviving the Game.
Seriously, Surviving the Game, and Gary Busey is so passionate. He has that one little speech he does about the dog. And
he does go for it. He's good in that movie. But I think it shows.
I feel like we lost a great actor.
And I think he's one of this movie's big strengths.
When the werewolf grabs a baseball bat, big not strength.
Yeah.
Why would a werewolf grab a baseball bat and then beat you with it?
The werewolf is a mess in this movie.
Okay,
everything they do with
it's terrible. There's a scene where they have the vigilante justice.
Wait, so do you like Silver Bullet?
It's a guilty pleasure.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a guilty pleasure.
I'm going to agree with Phil. It's a guilty pleasure.
Tolerance.
Yeah.
But there's this scene with the vigilante justice. There's this posse that goes out into the woods, and it's comical. It's so bad.
But isn't it supposed to be comical?
It's not. And actually, Roger Ebert was like, I don't know if I should take this movie seriously. He gave it such bad reviews. He's like, I don't know if I should take it seriously because I didn't know if it was a parody or not. I thought it was supposed to be a satire.
It's so goddamn broad. Absolutely. But you're you are unsure watching it how seriously to take this film. And that's part of the problem, I think, is that you're like, am I supposed to be laughing at this or horrified by this?
During that vigilante scene, it was so stupid.
I think the highlight, other than the Busey communicating with Corey Haim sequences, which are always great, even though you're you think Patience's parents were irresponsible. He would have been arrested if this happened today.
No, man, it was the 80s.
Yeah,
that's the 80s. That's why I don't agree. That's how people parented.
He built a kid a wheelchair that goes 40 miles an hour.
That's how we did in the 80s.
Probably
that shit passed a couple cars.
But
he outruns a werewolf with it. The
highlight
probably
scene of this whole thing is a dream sequence during a church where everyone is where Ed Hurley from Twin Peaks is playing. That's right. Big Ed is playing the priest who's hallucinating everyone in his church, including the dead body in the coffin they're having the funeral for, turns into a werewolf. That's the one sequence in this whole movie that's really pops, and the rest of it is just kind of flat.
So I'm just going to put this out there. I hadn't seen this movie since I was maybe 9 or 10 years old. I remember that scene till this day.
Yeah.
Just like in Maximum Overdrive, I remember when the Coke cans hit the guy in the head. It always freaks me. There's scenes that freak you out and that stick with you. I remember that scene. And I remember him hitting him the werewolf in the eye with the rocket. And so at least it was memorable. There were scenes that were memorable. That's why I'm not going to hate on this totally. because it did make an impact on me as a viewer.
It has some imagery.
It has some staying power for sure.
Yeah.
But man, there's so many plot holes and loopholes, and the werewolf looks like shit.
But,
and when you've got American Werewolf in London, that's
but
great.
That's the best werewolf movie I've ever seen.
It was made in the 70s. Like, they had 10 years to do fucking better, and they didn't.
They definitely...
They didn't have Rick Baker.
But that one part where Corey Haim is, trapped in that, that bridge, the covered bridge, and Big Ed is, talking and trying to justify why he killed everyone.
Love you call Big Ed.
That was a really horrific moment.
Yeah, no werewolf, broad daylight. Yeah,
exactly.
And what do you say? You're just drowned, and no one will know why.
But I think the movie justifies why he's doing what he's doing in a way that most movies don't ever really get right. Where you're like, wait, you're the priest, you're like a werewolf, why are you doing what you're doing? And you've kind of asked that question, and when the movie gets to that point where you need an answer, it does give you a justification.
Not enough. One girl is going to commit suicide. Well, what happens next time you turn into it? You got to find another suicidal person?
So I should say right now, I fucking loved rewatching this movie.
Nice.
Unlike you guys, I know you. Obviously, you guys had a lesser experience with this. I love this movie. Like Phil, I watched it when I was a kid, and so I really liked it then. And I think as a kid, you identify with Corey Haim, who is, by the way, pretty good in this movie. Yeah. He's really good in this. He's really good in The Lost Boys, and I think you identify with that character because he feels like a kid, and he discovers a secret no one else has. It's a very. I think you project yourself on him when you're younger, so I identify with him. What I loved rewatching this that I had completely forgotten, and by the way, I think we sought out the book,
Cycle of the Werewolf, with the great Bernie Wrightson.
I think that's why.
Illustrations. That's the biggest problem with this movie is that the book is visual. And the book is so much better because Bernie Wrightson, who I would argue might be the greatest comic book artist of all time.
This is such a whole other podcast.
Certainly with horrific images, monster images, Bernie Wrightson is
of Frankenstein. Have you ever read that? It's jaw-dropping.
Wrightson is a stunning, and what he did was he drew the Cycle of the Werewolf, which we should say is the book of this that this is from. He drew a few pages throughout the book. Each month, the way it's structured is each month is part of the story. Yeah. And then he would draw a couple
almost
pictures.
Like a comic book.
Yeah,
type.
And they're very comic booky.
Was there much more made in the book where it was on holidays, the werewolf thing, for some reason?
Well, because I think that's the lunar cycle.
Yeah, it starts differently. In the movie is completely different. It starts in the spring and ends on Halloween, whereas in the book, it's starts in the fall and ends in the spring or something like that. Or 4th of July.
I don't know the specifics. What I do know is that I super dug rewatching this. I felt that it really does capture something about what 80s Stephen King is about for me, which I think, and again, I think that's why you have something like the success of Stranger Things or something like that, which is something about the sort of the darkness and also freedom and imagination of childhood, and then this darkness that in the darkness of adulthood, the darkness of violence, the darkness of the real world intrudes on that. And I feel like this movie gets that right in a way that's also kind of fun and cool, almost in this Goonies way.
I think you had said, I think you had said that there was an Amblin feel to the movie that you had forgotten.
Yeah, and I dug that. And you know what else I forgot about? The sister's POV. The sister narrates
the whole thing, yeah.
And I really dug that. I didn't remember that. It feels like what I remember is Corey Haim is the main character, kind of, and then his sister sort of side character. But she is actually the main character, and her relationship with her brother grows and pays off in the movie.
It's a great sibling relationship.
Yeah, they feel like real kids to me.
Yeah, and
it's you took Stand By Me and took it down 5 notches. And made
a little bit, but that is
or 10.
You're right.
That's what it was to me. It was here I was looking at my brother. He said, "I love you." I loved him back. I didn't know it yet.
If you give me a third of the magic of Stand By Me in any movie, I'm already gonna like it.
I mean, agree with a Stand By Me is a 10 out of 10.
Right, and so just a piece of that is in this movie for me, and I really dug that. I also liked the movie offers no explanation for how he becomes a werewolf.
Well, you don't need that.
you don't need it, but I feel like a lot of movies would have included it, and I love that this movie just leaves it. And also, the twist of who the werewolf was is great. Terry O'Quinn as the sheriff is great. I was a big fan of that.
John Locke.
John Locke.
John Locke, man, and he's great. There are a lot of all the supporting performances in this movie are A+,
including the parents.
Yeah, the parents are really
Even
good.
The parents are,
There's a lot going on in this movie. Also, tight narrative. Man, this movie doesn't sit around. Like, I think it's 90 minutes or slightly more.
It's 95 minutes.
I'm telling you, if the werewolf would have actually looked legit, I would have enjoyed this.
All right. Let me address that.
Tierney.
I want to say, I'd rather see a clunky practical werewolf than the greatest CGI werewolf in the whole world.
I don't want to see a CGI.
And so I enjoyed the fact that this. Look, I get it.
Like
it did. The werewolf of this movie is not compared to The Howling or obviously American. I mean, goes without saying. But I really enjoyed this werewolf just because. I don't give a shit. I just like fucking werewolves, man. and so I really like this werewolf. I really liked Corey Haim in this movie. They don't make a big deal about the fact that he's a disabled character, but I love the fact that it's a factor in his character, but he's also a smart, funny, cool, real kid. He has problems with his parents, he has problems with his sister, and he's just a neat kid, and I really enjoyed that character. I also feel like I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Hang on, let me look at my notes.
Is that train full?
Wait, no, this is what I wanted to say. The silver bullet that they're referencing in the movie is his motorcycle / wheelchair in the movie, which his uncle has dubbed the silver bullet. This motorcycle wheelchair seems incredibly unsafe and also incredibly illegal. And that, again, is something that I love about the movie that feels very 80s, that it feels like the kind of Wild Wild West that we came to sort of expect, that something like, again, and I know I hate to reference it again, Stranger Things has a nostalgia for, is that idea that in the 80s, kids kind of got away with more. Things were more dangerous for them. But they sort of went along with that, and occasionally they'd run into a werewolf. And I think that this movie captures that.
And going back to the sister's perspective and their narration that she does, like at one point, and Phil made it very clear during text message, where she's witnessing this guy like be such a jerk to this woman who is pregnant with his baby.
It's my baby. It's a strange moment in the movie, and it's early on.
You see, like, this 80s small town mentality where everyone's, like, kind of a dick. Yeah. There's, like, the small town has all of these, like, skeletons in the closet, and you see that through this, the sister's perspective.
I think he literally says, "Ain't my baby."
No,
don't care.
Ain't my baby. I don't care. I don't
the most subtle scene I've ever seen. All right, I know we got to move on.
Before we move on, I just want to say, first off, Werewolf Train film directors, no one's ever done a train full of werewolves.
You know why? Because doing one werewolf right is fucking hard.
I know.
Look at this movie with Stephen King attached. Big budget.
Who wrote it, by the way?
With werewolves.
Train to Busan. Train to Busan with werewolves.
Wait for my pitch.
Phil,
Here we go.
Okay, so what else?
But,
Phil.
I obviously worked at bars for a long time, as obviously some of the brothers still do. Mm-hmm. Losers. Just kidding. I come to your bar for free
Just
drinks.
finish your story.
I used to irritate the shit out of my coworkers we'd get drunk towards the end of the shift and go like, wouldn't it be great if werewolves attacked right now? And like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's like, no, how would we survive a werewolf attack? And they're like, what is your thing with werewolves? I'm like, werewolves are cool, okay? They just haven't made enough good movies about them.
Like, Russ, seriously, I think you might be, like, a tad bit obsessed.
With werewolves?
Yeah.
I think werewolves are a great untapped resource in cinema, I agree. And again, and I think
there's not a lot of great movies.
This is a pretty good addition to the werewolf genre. That's where we're going to end this and move on to the next.
So we'll move on to the movie that now Russ is going to introduce.
Which would...
Maximum
Oh, we're doing it on Maximum
Overdrive.
Overdrive?
Yeah.
So good.
Do it, Russ. Do it.
Like some cocaine first.
Yeah, Maximum Overdrive is a film. It is the only film that Stephen King has directed. And
That's significant.
Yes, and I think that's a big deal. We'll get into that in a second.
Tell the plot.
So the story of Maximum Overdrive is adapted from the Stephen King short story Trucks, which is from, I believe, Night Shift?
Night Shift, yeah.
Yeah.
And a small truck stop in, is it South Carolina? North Carolina. North Carolina, is overrun by what seems to be sentient machines, including giant semis, but also, kitchen utensils and other things.
Meanwhile, Night of the Comet is going on one town over.
I know, right?
We'll get a Night of the Comet in another podcast, hopefully. But something seems to be happening where machines themselves have become sentient and are attacking human beings inside of the United States and possibly the entire world. And that's where the movie comes from. Emilio Estevez and a small ragtag band of people who are trapped at this truck stop must figure out how to survive inside this apocalyptic scenario.
Including the whiniest Bart Simpson appearance ever.
We'll get into that in a second, too.
She's not Bart Simpson. Lisa Simpson.
Lisa Simpson, thank you.
I thought she was Bart.
No, she's not Bart. She's just Lisa.
She's Lisa.
What? Are you sure?
Okay, what Chris is referencing is right. Yardley Smith, who is the voice of Lisa Simpson, has a semi-prominent role in this movie.
She won't shut up.
Anyways, go on.
With my accent.
You feel like if it was The Mist, she would be the crazy religious lady.
All right, I'm going to talk about this movie because I have my knives sharpened and I'm ready to defend this movie against everybody.
I love this movie.
I warned you ahead of time that this would be you defending this movie and me actually probably also defending it.
All right. Wow. I was prepared to really fight about this movie.
You want to wait then? Let them talk.
Okay.
Let's do this.
All right.
Oh, shit. Phil, bringing on
You know what?
pain.
Get in the chopper!
I'm gonna cede the floor to Phil to talk about this film. I do want to say that Stephen King has semi-disowned this movie as a director and a filmmaker. Which I think is unfortunate.
And his directing career.
And I said semi disowned. She's like,
I didn't.
Because trucks.
It was a Freudian slip, but I'll take the credit for it. Also, I had a friend who met Emilio Estevez and was able to talk to him about some of his film work. And he said that Stephen King wrote him an apology letter for this film.
Amazing.
Yeah. Which I think is unfortunate.
Does Emilio die at the end of the apology letter?
I would like to say that it's too bad. I understand that King and Estevez seem to have some problems with this work, but I would like to defend this movie. But first, I'm going to let Phil talk.
Oh, it's not a good movie.
This is an amazing
No one's going to say this is
okay.
No one would say seriously as a movie this is a good movie.
No, I would totally disagree.
I would totally disagree.
So real quick, I'm just
hang on. Phil's got his notebook.
I'm looking at my notes now.
Okay.
My first note was a cocaine-fueled rage.
Yeah.
This guy was so fucked up making this movie. He does not know how to direct a movie. This is his first thing. He has no idea about what his shot is, what's going on, how to cut things together.
It's incompetently made.
And Stephen King admits, he's like, I had no idea what I was doing.
I don't agree with any of this.
Okay, and then you've got the next part of my note is, his DP lost his fucking eye.
Yeah,
that's true.
Because a lawnmower hits a piece of wood and it goes in there.
I mean, that's terrible.
Cost your DP an eye.
Because he wanted it to be more realistic.
The ice cream truck flips over, almost kills his second camera unit, which thank God a fucking grip paid attention enough to grab the guy and yank him off the fucking camera before he died. What's next going on? Oh, he wanted Bruce Springsteen as the lead.
Yeah,
get the fuck out of here with that.
He literally, thank God for Dino De Laurentiis in this one because he was like, who's the boss? I don't know who the boss is. We're going to get Emilio Estevez.
I mean, have you noticed that Bruce Springsteen has never really been an actor? That's because he knows he's not an actor. So
no, but to me, it was like, I love where there's a line where he goes, well, if you want something done right, do it yourself. Look at The Shining, you daft motherfucker. I'm sorry, there were good movies made, and it blows my mind that he would say, if you want something done right, do it yourself. The Shining is a masterpiece, and this movie's a piece of shit.
Have you ever had a Coke binge where you did Coke for a couple days in a row?
Guys, we're getting some serious insight into Chris Cox.
I'm just saying.
We've never ever done cocaine in our lives.
You say things like, "If you want something right, do it yourself." That's the time when you say that unironically, and you believe it.
I would never know that, Chris. None of us would ever know that.
Well, I'm calling myself out.
So, Cox suspects.
He's read. He may have heard from a guy from another guy who would do a lot of coke.
I'm trying to admit I've had a coke binge, and you're like, no, you haven't had a coke binge.
Cox just owns that shit. He owns it. The way King owns it.
Okay.
I would have loved to have been there when King watched it sober and went like, "Oh Jesus, what did I fucking do? What have I done?"
Was high on coke watching this movie. So, anyways,
It was a long time ago. Don't worry about it.
It's like a thing.
You're the Stephen King among us, because at least Stephen King admits that he did a terrible.
Stephen King addiction is a huge theme in all of these movies.
He actually has been asked, "Why haven't you directed another movie?" And his answer was, "Have you seen Maximum Overdrive?"
This movie is so great. I mean, one of the things I love about this movie is
AC/DC.
Yes. Obviously.
That is it.
I mean, fuck yeah.
I don't think anyone would remember this movie fondly if it wasn't for AC/DC. It's such a huge part.
Is Chris on coke right now?
We are literally getting booed from the Summer Brothers couch right now.
I understand your point, but I mean, obviously, I think we can all agree AC/DC is
one of the highlights of the film. I mean,
it figures prominent. I mean, it is.
That's one of the most
famous
soundtracks ever. I believe is
justifiably so. Justifiably.
But I mean, we have this giant semi with the Green Goblin. on the front
also
of
iconic, an iconic image.
Nobody ever forgets that. Everyone, when they think Maximum Overdrive, they think of the semi with the Green Goblin.
Some dude took that, what was left of it, bought it for a lot of money, restored it over the space of like 5 years because it was burnt to shit, and now takes it over, drives it around to Comic-Cons and pays people to
awesome.
But otherwise, the other great thing about this film is the deaths in this film are just absolutely amazing.
They're a lot of fun.
The scene where the Little League team gets taken out by
he runs a kid over with a bulldozer. He kills a kid with a bulldozer. That was right.
I don't know what you're complaining about then.
Because to me, it's more than just like ooh, that was exciting. It's like the fucking whole movie just falls apart. Like, I get that there are parts that are fun, but when you are like the auteur and the director, and it's like, it just... Here, I was going to save this for later, but I'm going to drop it now.
Whoa.
Stephen King's own problem is Stephen King. What winds up happening is there's a million great scripts in the world, but someone would rather pay for a short story by Stephen King to be made into feature so he can put his fucking name above it and like spend $10 million on it than to get a good script a chance. And you watch a lot of his movies and they're half-ass shorts that aren't meant to be features, and they turn them into features, and it's like, it's drug out. His movies are always drugged the fuck out, and they wind up not being good after about 50 minutes. And the problem is, you put his name on there, and that's what's getting you financing, and he's a flaw of his own making. And we go from there.
I agree with everything you're saying.
Argument that's not necessarily wrong.
I'm not disagreeing with you. Did you just drop your mic?
He dropped his notebook in lieu of his mic.
I agree with everything you're saying in the terms of making a good movie.
Agreed.
However, I will say there is a number of Stephen King films that are not good movies, this film included, that are nonetheless fun to watch in that way that you watch a trash.
I'm confused. I'm confused by that argument, because how is it bad if you're having a good time watching it?
I present Sharknado for your.
I don't find that.
This is not like Sharknado.
I don't find that a real argument.
I present The Room for your.
I don't find that argument.
I do. I think.
I don't think this movie is so bad it's good. I don't find it.
I think it is. I think it's so bad it's good.
See,
it's not
I don't have that experience watching the movie.
It's definitely not a good
I enjoy
movie.
the movie on its own level.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to talk about Mangler in a little bit.
Okay, let's not jump ahead, but
I'm going to defend the Mangler. I'm just saying.
Jesus Christ.
Because you picked it, but we'll get into that in a second.
What else did you want to say?
I mean,
Russ?
the Summers Brothers. I think you guys.
Did you want to say something?
I actually have.
Let's hear it.
Okay, first of all, I didn't get to drop my big line that I wanted to say, which is unfortunate because I had the intro, which was I want to say the Doom Patrol on Deliberations of Doom finally answers the question of who made who as we review Maximum Overdrive.
I should have let you do the introduction.
I know, and I did, and I screwed up. But anyways, I will say, watching the film again, I'll lead with this. It does have kind of a juvenile sense of humor, and I do think at times.
Did you just say kind of a juvenile sense?
Seriously,
of humor? Thank you. No, you're correct.
Directors, I will. Poop is not funny. It is not
I will excise the kind
funny.
of. It has a juvenile sense of humor, which I think King tends to do. He also tends to appreciate the gross and the scatological, which I'm not always a huge fan of.
Scatological.
And
poop.
Yeah, and
that's amazing.
I had an English degree, and I'm putting it to work right now.
I learned a new word today.
So I do think that was a big knock on the movie, is that the humor in the movie is sometimes it falls flat. It's broad, it's silly, and some of the characters are drawn
incredibly broad.
I think that the practical effects in this movie are really amazing. So amazing, obviously, that they hurt people.
That I completely agree with.
So I think I was very impressed with that. And obviously, I mean, I'm a huge AC/DC fan. The AC/DC score, which you've obviously mentioned.
Who were asked to be actors, and their response was, "Yeah, we're not actors."
Smart man.
There is something I want to say about this movie. There is a moment in this film that I never really forgot, even when I saw it as a kid, now watching it again, where Emilio Estevez posits an explanation for what he thinks is behind what's happening with the machines being taken over as sentient beings. And the way it's done and what he's talking about, and the idea that it's not a real explanation, it's only his theory.
Yeah.
I think is a really great scene. And I think it points to the kind of thing that I really like about this movie. And I think the movie itself, I understand the knocks against it. I don't know that it's particularly well shot. It's not a great visual movie in that sense, but I think it's really well edited. I don't totally agree with Phil. I think that it is pretty well directed, especially considering King never directed anything before, hasn't directed anything since. I was pretty impressed with his direction of the film, going back and looking at it. So I'm actually kind of dismayed. I see his funny comment about, have you seen Maximum Overdrive? But I would love to see another Stephen King directed film.
He has since said, okay, I admit, I was on a lot of coke then, and I would be curious to have another shot now that I'm a sober person and an older person.
And again, I get the knock that obviously this is Stephen King at his most coked out, crazy, which is, I would also like to point this out as a small aside. It's interesting to me that the Stephen King that we're talking about, the Stephen King at his most late 70s, 80s iconic, is the one that was completely, full-blown addiction, had the cocaine and the alcohol and all that stuff. And that's the guy that made movies like Maximum Overdrive and wrote all these big iconic books. So I think I'm surprised by that. I mean, obviously, talk about a highly functioning alcoholic.
So what you're saying is I need to become more addicted to drugs.
I mean, there's a little bit of that, but it's interesting. I just think it's
the next,
But I'm just saying, I think it's interesting to look back and think that Stephen King, when he was really Stephen King with a capital S, capital K, was his most fucked up.
In touch with his demons.
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
I was just going to say, you take his name away from this movie never gets financing, and then you take, what he did with this. Only thing great about it is AC/DC and the special effects, the stunts.
I don't agree with that.
It's not the story.
I don't agree with that.
I am fucking Comet in the Sky. It's not it. The story sucks.
Like the part in the beginning with the bridge, that was, I know it dragged on a little bit long, but that was a really, I thought it was not a bad directed film.
Can I just say one other thing? Before everybody else, I think the other thing I want to say is interesting about this as Stephen King's sole directorial effort, and as someone who is as identified with his films as he is with his books, it's weird to me that Stephen King picked the short story Trucks.
Yeah,
as it doesn't have anything about when you think of Stephen King, when you think of ghosts and monsters and creatures, I don't know that you think of Trucks as a quintessential Stephen King story.
That is a strange directorial
very loosely based on Trucks.
But it's bizarre. But even then, why is this the movie that he picked?
There's so many other.
There's actually a TV movie, more direct adaptation of Trucks that was made in the 90s.
But why this film as probably a film that he could have made? I mean, I think if you'd said in the mid-'80s, I think Stephen King probably, if he said he was going to direct his own movie, because he could have directed any movie he really wanted to make, especially one of his works. Why did he pick this one?
It was more important to him to do something with a heavy metal AC/DC type feel to it.
This was a masturbatory thing. Like he loved AC/DC. He wanted Bruce Springsteen. He wanted to just do shit because I'm fucked up. I'm a rock star.
Yeah.
But he wanted to be a rock star.
I mean, I agree with that, and I think again, and I don't find I see what you're saying, and I don't find that a knock on the movie because I think those are the things that make you an auteur.
I do
that
when you're
make them
Stephen
very personal.
King and you have The Shining as part of your repertoire, and you do this shit.
I guess. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but he's not Stanley Kubrick. He's Stephen King. He's going to make his own Stephen King movie, and the fact that his own obsessions and ideas
are something like Pet Sematary.
The Shining
exactly.
It feels like it should be Pet Sematary.
I agree. It should be something with depth, and instead he did hey, can I get all my fucking rock and roll friends in here and do some shit? That's what he did.
So
real
Coke is
quick,
a hell of a drug.
Right.
I know we got a lot of other movies to get through, but I'm just going to tell you my thoughts super quick, which is Russ covered a lot of them. I am very entertained by this movie. I love this movie. This is having beer, eating candy, watching fucking movies. This movie is top of my list. I've definitely dragged people over to watch this movie, and we all had a good time. You laugh. It's fun. It moves. And actually, I think the movie delivers on moments. So you guys really talked about the Coke can and moments you sort of remember. The bridge, the truck with the Green Goblin face. Really iconic imagery that does stay with you. I think the movie has a lot of it. One thing I always remember is where they have to pump the gas for the trucks. It's a stunning scene. There's nothing particularly memorably visual about it, but I remember it feels hot. It feels like the sun. And really, and I just the music they play when all the trucks are lined up, and then when the other military vehicle comes in with the gun. And I have to say, for a movie that's about a bunch of dumb machines coming to life, that is not a knock on. I always buy kind of the world of the movie. I don't think God, this is fucking stupid.
Yeah, Matrix did it right. This did.
Okay, the Matrix is. I mean, you're talking about the Wachowskis. I mean, you're just.
Well, I think you had made an interesting point, which was you said it's really kind of a zombie movie.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, and I think it really is.
But only while Haley's Comet flies by.
But it is a film about a small group of survivors surviving this sort of siege, and I appreciate that about the movie. I love the soundtrack.
To me, I'm telling you, if you take the special effects and the music out of the movie, it cannot.
I would still like it. I like the story of the film.
It's a fun movie.
It's fun. It's
because AC/DC and
it's a B movie.
Between you guys, because I agree with Phil. If you take the special effects and the soundtrack out, this movie doesn't work at all.
Because the story's not there.
But I think with that,
because I would still love this movie if you put something like a Tangerine Dream score to it. I would really dig that.
You want Tangerine Dream?
I want fucking Tangerine Dream for every movie.
And you know what? I think of Estevez is really good in the movie too. Which I really like
Estevez as well. I mean, we all know that Bruce Springsteen would have been shit in this movie, but I mean,
in theory, as far as I know, he's never acted.
No, he's in High Fidelity as himself.
Well, he did that.
But he's playing himself. So anything he's playing a character.
No, they wanted him for Light of Day.
Music
they wanted him for Michael J.
He
Fox
played a dishwasher, right?
All right, let's move on. I know we got a lot of shit to get
before we finish. First off, one of the only King films that no one even so much as mentions Maine. There's no reference except one tiny split-second shot of the pizza delivery car that crashes into a tree that has a license plate that says Maine. That is the only reference to Maine in the whole thing.
Interesting because he directed it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But in terms of the bigger picture, they mention an island called Haven where there is no cars. And, of course, there was a Sci-Fi Channel show called Haven based on a Stephen King story where the second season has an episode called where... It's
based
the same
on the Colorado
plot,
kid.
Where it's based on the Colorado kid.
It's like he can just say anything like, bookshelf. Let's do a TV show called Bookshelf.
Stephen King's Bookshelf.
I'd watch it.
I'm going to watch that shit.
I can't wait.
I mean, I'd at least check it out.
Is the Bookshelf evil?
What's next?
Let's know what's next because it's your turn to talk about it. And
Needful Things.
I did not pick this movie. You guys are going to make me talk about this movie?
I don't know who picked this movie anyway.
Who did pick this
movie. You picked this movie.
All right, you know what? I'll introduce this movie. Needful Things is a movie that sucks.
Holy shit! All 5 of us are going to agree right now.
I love Needful Things.
I don't know how this movie ended up on our list, but I'm going to give.
I don't know who picked Needful Things,
I didn't pick it.
Fuck you.
I didn't pick it because I've never seen it
picked
before.
Firestarter and Silver Bullet.
The Needful Things just snuck on there.
I tried to pick Misery and they wouldn't let me, and they said no. And I tried to pick The Shining and they said no.
Let's just do the super quick thing, which is
We
it's this
downloaded.
crappy town. I guess it's Castle Rock.
This fucking
Isn't it
thing?
Castle Rock?
Castle Rock.
And then
Max von Sydow
Max von
moves
Sydow
in his
moves in
town,
town,
opens a shop full of objects and
called Needful
curiosities.
Things.
Yeah, and then but offers people these things that they absolutely have to have. They're in this weird shop, and then
they
seems to give them. It doesn't. The payment is not necessarily actual money, but something that you have to do that seems to bother your neighbor and leads to a chain reaction of dumb bullshit. That is the worst movie. Listen, I'm sorry. I gotta go off on this fucking movie. This might be one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my fucking life.
Russell Summers of the
I
House
truly
people.
hated
Russell
this
Summers.
movie.
I agree.
I think that there's things like Maximum Overdrive and Silver Bullet, movies that people say, and Firestarter, movies that people say are bad movies.
Take a picture of this.
Yeah.
But this fucking movie has no excuse to be as terrible as it is. It's a movie from the early to mid 90s. It has a decent budget. It's the first film ever, I think, finished on an Avid film, so it has that distinction. Other than that, it has no other fucking distinction because it is fucking horrible. I never thought. Fuck up. I've never killed anyone, but this is going to be.
That'd be great. You know what my numbers would be on the podcast if you killed me right now?
I've never seen a bad Ed Harris performance. I didn't think it was possible for Ed Harris to give a bad performance until I saw this fucking movie. There is no excuse for this film
The
to be
disdain in his eyes.
boring. There is literally no reason to watch this movie ever. It is not entertaining. It is not smart. It is not particularly well written or shot. It is filmed like a bad 90s anthology show, like The Hitchhiker.
Hold on. Oh. I just want to say, you asked, why can't we review more good movies? And I'm like, because if we did, we wouldn't have this right now.
We need Summers Brothers rants in order. You guys are carrying this whole entire show.
We were despondent watching this movie.
There are bad movies, and I understand bad movies, but I think what a truly bad movie is boring. It's tedious. It's hard to sit through, and I think with a film of this a clear budget and size and logistics behind it, there's no reason for it to be as fucking boring and just hard to sit through as it is. It's like, you can't believe this film was made in like 1993.
He's making a Gilbert Gottfried face right now.
You're talking the same year that movies like Jurassic Park came out. This movie came out months later, and it is god awful.
Does anyone have anything else to say?
No, let's move on.
No,
let's move on.
I've got some stuff to say, too.
I'm sorry.
Can I just throw in there, this movie suffers from the 90s. When you watch this, everything that you hate about the 90s is in this movie.
I completely agree with you.
The fucking cheesy cinematography, the cheesy dialogue, the cheesy acting, everything 110. That you like.
And it
hate
feels
about
like that 90s thing, like, we'll just release this and people will go see it because we made it, right? Like,
because
it's a movie.
we put Stephen King's name on it.
Agreed.
I
totally agree with that.
It was more than that. I don't know if you guys remember when this book was published, but this was treated as a Stephen King event.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, this is the big thing. This is going to be the thing, the milestone in Stephen King books that ties in everything together. They treated it as this huge deal. Yeah. And then everyone was like, it was okay.
They didn't even say that.
And then they rushed out the movie after that.
This book was actually well received. This was actually one of my... This is an excellent Stephen King book. I'm not saying it's an excellent Stephen King movie, but Needful Things was a big deal when it came out. People loved it. People celebrated it.
This was at the tail end of my reading everything Stephen King came out, and I was kind of like, eh.
Okay, so fuck the book. Did you like the movie?
No.
Yeah.
It was incredibly boring. Ed Harris could not save this movie. Amanda Plummer, who I'm not particularly fond of.
Ed Harris and Max von Sydow.
Max von Sydow,
those
is
two
fucking
are
immortal. By
those
the
two
way.
are like two of the best actors ever in film. They are amazing.
But you have
actors.
to admit that he was still really good as Leland Gaunt. Like,
he was fine.
I mean,
No, I will not admit that.
I like him as
he was fine.
Too. Yeah, I
his performance was fucking
I'll give them
amazing.
Sydow, but everything else.
But here's the problem. Like, when you look at the plot, like, hey, I want to buy this Letterman jacket.
You know what?
Sorry,
there
you got
is a plot to this movie, and I think, like, unlike other Stephen King novels where you feel like, it all kind of gets lost, all kind of squishy, it's just like...
What is the Needful Things store? I mean, it doesn't look like a real store. It's like this weird house that they obviously repurposed.
And they all seem to just accept it.
Yeah, and they just wander in there like, look, there's my letter jacket from when I was in high school.
Yeah.
I'll kill for this letter jacket from when I was in high school.
Russ, you've clearly not been to antique stores.
But here's
not
my
a hipster.
favorite part.
I apologize.
It's like, oh, here's this Letterman jacket. Oh, I had one like when I was great. Here's a switchblade. Skin a fucking dog.
It's so
I'm
awful.
sorry. Like, there's no Letterman jacket
But
in the world.
he was the town drunk.
All right, so here's the thing, right? When they released the movie, there was a lot that was cut. All right, now I'm not defending the film based on that. I'm just saying there was a lot that was cut because you watch the movie version and you go, what are all these characters? All the characters, except with the possible exception of Amanda Plummer, are completely uninteresting. You're like, who would actually do those things this guy wanted him to do as Prince? Who would do that? All right, so they were like, King and the production company's like, okay, so maybe releasing it this cut was a bad idea. So they re-released it as a mini-series on television. That was a full hour long.
Shit.
Yeah, you can find torrents of it, but they've never actually
I don't remember this at
officially
all.
released it on any Blu-ray or DVD
Seriously?
version that significantly expand out all the characters, and it's more or less still has the same problems. But you know what? I will say this. I want to say this about this film. I did appreciate it in a modern, right now sense, because it's about like how simple it is to create huge divisions and violent ties
That's a good
between
point.
a close-knit community.
That's a very good
Which
point.
is
I find that
what
you're
we're in
reading
now.
on this movie.
And I found it emotionally affecting based on that level. Watching that going, what we're going through right now is exactly that. Family and friends who've never had any issues with each other, but always going like, yeah, but they do that one thing that irritates me. Suddenly being inflamed into, like, I'm not going to have anything to do with you anymore. I found resonant right now.
That makes a lot of
I
sense.
think I liked it.
No.
It's a fascinating point. I just don't think it's.
I wish
Okay.
I'd watched that movie because the most annoying thing for this movie is watching like, and then this person does this dumb thing, and then
There was this weird, like, it's a big game of telephone, and it all kind of adds up to
Yeah,
people
I don't
doing
give
all-
a fuck. Like, I don't give a fuck that these people
So-
are like annoying each other. Like, I didn't care.
So I'm going to agree with both sides right now just because I agree with Chris that there was a better movie here that was really failed to make. I feel like the premise of like this little troll fucking thing, because it doesn't have to be the devil, some demon troll thing shows into your town and starts preying upon your wants and needs. But it was done. But I'm just saying, it was done in such
I
a
wasn't
way.
giving you that shit during Cujo.
Okay,
was
but
so-
it was- seriously,
it's a boring.
Can I ask a serious question?
Yes.
At the end of the movie, J.G.
bad.
Walsh shows
So
up
bad.
with a fucking suicide bomber
Don't
vest.
call me
Where did he get that in the
Chester!
middle of Maine? I don't understand where.
Same place he got the Mickey
in
Mantle card.
In the middle of the
fucking
night,
basement.
I just.
You know, it's funny. Like, he's the devil. He can make anything appear. He had a...
Boo!
No,
boo! That's
no,
a
it's-
bad reason.
No, but it's part of the plot of the movie.
This
He
movie
makes-
sucks.
He makes a Mickey Mantle card appear signed to the guy
Look,
who
I
wants
just-
the
I
Mickey
literally
Mantle
I
just
card.
wanna
cannot find
point out
anything
really
about
quick.
this movie is redeemable. Like, it is.
Can I just point out really quick that none of us chose this movie?
Can I
That's
point
a weird, needful thing.
Wait, is any of you guys been hanging out with Max von Sydow lately?
I like that
Maybe
guy.
Phil.
Yeah, I like
I don't
him.
know.
All right,
Phil's
do I have
the
anything else to
hobnob.
say about this?
Wait.
Phil
I've
has
got
something to
a
say.
couple little things.
Okay, go ahead.
Have you
Owen.
ever seen an apple go through a window, hit a TV screen, the TV blow up? I mean, an apple. Was he throwing hand grenades into that fucking house?
What do you want me to say? Do you want me to say no? Yeah, maybe I've seen that.
He was obviously summoning Sandy Koufax, which is Sandy Koufax, not Mickey Mantle. Just FYI.
So my thing is, I feel there was a movie here that could have been made, that could have been good, had the actual things not been pranks, had people... Because it's like, somebody shows up with $2,000, your fucking plot goes out the fucking window because, now they don't have to fucking pull a prank. Yeah. So the problem is, you were literally saying, nobody in this town has any money, so you've got to do my bidding, but the bidding was stupid. If the bidding was done correctly and intelligently, it could have been a good movie, but it wasn't handled that way. It was bad.
I think that there's enough of a basic idea here that you could really make a good movie.
I don't agree.
I don't know that I agree.
I think the initial seed of the movie is so boring, O. Henry type shit.
What's wrong with that?
Because I just don't give a fuck. Like, I don't want to watch this town
I'd rather watch a shitty practical werewolf than watch a town full of people who accidentally play bad tricks on each other.
Machines attack a truck stop. Like, that's a movie.
I would rather watch Maximum Overdrive again.
Exactly.
Well, I would too.
I'd rather watch David Fincher's Needful Things.
Oh.
There it is. Even then,
stop the Summers Brothers.
No, I thought about it. No, I thought about it. I was like, is he going to bring something to that? No.
Yes, he would.
Inherently, I don't think... No. Inherently, there's nothing interesting about
Real
this movie.
quick, Kubrick changed The Shining and made it a great movie.
If I pitched this movie to you and I was like, Phil, I got $1 million
amazing.
and there's a shop and then they're gonna the town's like, he has a baseball card, but then the other guy has a letter jacket, and then they kill the guy in the bar, you'd be like,
Yeah, take half of that out and just find the root of your story.
There's no root.
Let's talk about the masterpiece that is the Mangler.
I want to just start with a few notes I had here. It was nominated for 3 Saturn Awards. Amanda Plummer won for Best Supporting Actress.
It was a bad
Just recently, Rick and Morty referenced it with Something Ricked This Way Comes.
Of course they did.
This was written by W.D. Richter. Do you know who that is?
Yeah, I do. He directed a small independent film that I love called Buckaroo Banzai, and he wrote another great
heard of it.
small film from the 80s called Big Trouble in Little China.
Yes,
I've also never heard of that.
He also wrote an excellent film called Stealth.
He's one of the greatest human beings on the planet because he was involved in the creation of 2 of the greatest movies ever made. Big Trouble in Little China.
And
he also wrote Dracula, the 1979 Dracula.
He did
the John Badham, Franklin,
which is fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to the Mangler because
next,
I guess I have to be the one to talk about the
Thank
plot.
God.
Oh, thank you.
This is a 1995
This
one.
was all you.
2 years after the masterpiece of Needful Things, Stephen King and Tobe Hooper unleashed on us.
Tobe Hooper, the genius behind Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
and that's about it.
And more importantly, Life Force.
Yeah.
Seriously, it used all of the special effects from Life Force, I thought.
This is based on the least likely Stephen King short story to ever be adapted into a film by the same name.
Real quick, how many times was that lightning effect used in these Stephen King movies?
How many times the what?
The lightning effect.
100%.
Like, literally, you touch one thing, lightning shocks your hands, and you fucking see shit.
Also, the least likely mediocre to bad Stephen King adaptation to get sequels. It got
multiple sequels.
Yeah, 3 movies,
yeah, just like, what? The Mangler has a sequel?
What's the plot to Mangler, Chris?
So the plot is there's a giant old school laundry service in this town. It's owned by Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger, of course, who puts in old age makeup despite the fact he was only a few years away from looking like that anyway. I mean, let's face it, it's true. And the problem starts when his niece cuts herself on a lever connected to the machine, she splashes blood, and then things start happening. More and more people are affected by this machine, start being hurt until somebody is actually sucked into this old school, giant, creepy-looking laundry machine and totally flattened into a bloody pulp. As it becomes clear as the movie goes on, the machine is in fact infected by the devil, or a devil, and requires blood sacrifice, and that Robert Englund is the owner of it, not only knows about it, but this is a long tradition that's been going on for generations.
I'll tell you what else is long is this summary of the movie.
I love that it makes it seem like there's a plot to this movie.
Buffalo Bill is the cop trying to solve the situation.
The great Ted Levine, who is a really good actor.
Shouldn't it have been Gary Busey playing the same character from Silver Bullet?
I wish Gary Busey would have been his neighbor.
I wish Gary Busey was the Mangler.
Seriously.
Big teeth, his mouth just chewing you up.
Is that it? Can we...
I mean...
No, because I want to defend this movie as being one of those movies that is, it's trash, that knows it's trash.
No, it tried to be more. It tried to be more.
I don't agree with the self-awareness, and that's the problem with the movie.
I agree.
Unlike Maximum Overdrive, which was hilarious, this movie...
And awesome.
And awesome. This movie is fucking terrible. Like, the acting is so bad in this movie. Robert Englund, everything is so over the top. And
they don't have a movie to be in. Yeah.
I don't exactly know who the damn director was.
It's Toby Hooper.
Oh, shit.
Directed Texas Chainsaw Massacre
and Life Force.
And maybe Poltergeist. Probably not.
Okay, real quick.
Oh, hold on. Let me finish my thought. But Toby, like, I felt like he was, like, maybe too much into Dick Tracy at the time. Like, there was just these over-the-top prosthetics. The whole entire scene.
That's why
I wish that was in this movie. Everything I tell you, I wish that was this movie.
No, he would. No, this movie.
Did you guys? By the way, did you guys watch this on Hulu?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So apparently Hulu did not have the.
There's a different.
No. I watched the Hulu version too, but apparently there is a shockingly bloodier version.
No,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It wouldn't matter.
Hold up.
Because
it could be the missing 20 minutes of the Magnificent Ambersons, and it would still be the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
I thought it was pretty brutally graphic when it got gory.
I can't wait till my turn.
That's actually the one thing that I like about this film is that it's super gory.
Okay.
And I like the gore. I'm a gore whore. And it was super gory. There was, I mean,
it's a gore whore,
which is awesome.
I want to point out
be who you are, Patience. Be who you are.
I want to point out that I didn't say that.
I didn't point that either. I respect women.
I'm pretty sure our listeners already know that.
Yeah.
I like when Robert Englund gets folded at the end. Come on, that was amazing.
Don't care.
So, real quick, this is again what I'm talking about. You put Stephen King's name on something, you make a piece of shit, you make money. And this is kind of one of those things where I'm watching this movie and I'm like, it's not fucking good at all. And I get that, like, and the thing that real quick, the whole, like, oh, it's bad to be bad. You don't put, like, a labor sets you free sign in your background. That's a direct, like, ripoff of, like, the Auschwitz sign. And, like, trying to make social commentary. But yet you make a movie that bad.
Wait, there is social commentary?
No. I'm not
for sure.
That's social commentary. Yeah.
For sure there is.
Labor will set you free. I think it's insinuated that this tradition of feeding the Mangler ties all the way back to the Nazis.
You don't put the Auschwitz sign with a bunch of people working in your fucking shop.
I don't agree.
You're telling me that those people weren't slaves?
I think it was no, they were, but I think it was a misintentioned, campy take of the idea that this
you don't do that.
Toby Hooper is a very.
This was the 90s. It was a simpler time.
No, that this evil family has been going back doing this ritual. Feeding this machine, going past,
decades.
Going into Auschwitz and beyond. I think that was the insinuation. I don't think it's social commentary. I think they're just saying this family's been doing this for a long
once
time.
You introduce Auschwitz,
once you introduce Auschwitz and people working in an environment that looks like you're in a concentration camp, it bugs me. And then you handle it in that way. And to me, I was turned off the entire time. Didn't like it. I thought it was shot poorly. I thought the art direction was comical. I felt like it was a stage play. I thought it was like if Jean-Pierre Jeunet had been hit by a truck and been put in a coma and came back half the man.
That sounds like a movie I'd want to see.
Seriously, and I'll reiterate my statement. I liked Alien Resurrection.
It's fine. I'd watch it any time over this. This was something that, it felt like it was trying to be more than what it was. And it was trying to be intelligent.
I really don't think this movie tried at all, honestly.
Try is a strong
It had to have. It had to have.
Summers.
And the thing is it Toby or Tobey?
Tobey.
Do you call him Tobey?
Toby.
I'm calling him Toby. I don't give a fuck.
Whatever.
Toby. You're Toby now.
His mama called him Toby.
We're calling him Toby. I'm not calling you Toby. Toby.
His mama called him Toby. I'm calling Toby.
You guys are crazy.
Anyway.
This is the Citizen Kane of completely
Oh my
unforgivably
fucking
awful
God.
films.
You don't
Chris
actually
Cox.
think that.
Chris,
You're
this is not a hill you want to die on.
You're just throwing bombs.
Like, seriously,
You don't
no.
actually believe
Other
that.
than Texas Chainsaw, he just has like a
But
huge
here's the thing.
affair
But
with
wait,
Toby.
this is my last.
Finish your thought.
Even Texas Chainsaw isn't that good. It's just gory before gore existed.
Oh, wow. I disagree with that. I don't want to go on a
disagree
tangent
with
on
you
that. I don't
It's
want
gore before gore
We
existed.
already,
on a tangent on that.
talked about
We're not gonna
this.
touch
Hey, let's see their story. Hey, they pick up a hitchhiker. Hey, they go over here. Oh, hey, he tortures people and they eat them.
Okay, we already
It's torture
talked
porn.
about this
No, you're derailing
in our
stuff.
Not everybody at the same
Final
time.
Girl episode.
Not everybody
Sorry.
all at
Okay,
the same time.
so
don't talk over each
Russ,
other.
wait, okay, so real quick, this is all I want to say.
Toby sucks.
First off, it's very confusing. The mythology of the movie. Okay.
No. First off, I want to be real clear with full disclosure. I didn't finish this fucking
Yeah, okay,
movie.
so wait. The Summer Spoilers did not finish this movie. We had a conflict. We like to enjoy our life. And this movie, we got about...
We got a good
2/3 of
40,
yeah,
40
we were
something,
we were
50.
longer than that. And at a certain point, I said, I love this podcast, and I want to be fair to this movie. This movie does not. I'm not going to finish this movie, and it didn't deserve to be finished. I think it's not really a great film. First off,
I mean, that said, I still think it's better than Needful Things.
I agree.
What?
Yeah,
no, I
totally
do.
agree.
I do
agree,
because
Russ.
I think there.
We had this discussion at time.
Listen, I will say this. As far as so bad it's good, you can make an argument of that for this film. And I think that there is more personality, more intention, more interesting things going on in the Mangler. I mean, I will say this. It is very clear that this is the director of Life Force. It is not clear that it's the director of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Or Poltergeist.
Poltergeist
director did not make this.
But it is
No,
but it
Poltergeist.
is very clear it's the director of Life Force. It's all over the place. Shit is weird. It doesn't make sense in any real thing. And there's weird
no cause and effect in
there's
this
no
movie.
and there's a weird scenes from scene to scene do not necessarily add up.
Everything you're saying is right, and yet...
No, and I agree. But what I'm going to say is there's a
like-
weird. First of all, who would work in this place? OSHA would be all over this place. It doesn't make any sense.
Are you applying like real life rules to the Mangler?
And the answer is sort of.
By saying this
Sort of.
is absurdly bad.
But I don't want to use that as a reason to excuse everything that doesn't totally make sense in the movie.
Yeah.
And I also think, look, let's be clear about this. This is a movie about a giant haunted laundry machine.
No, but it's not even. The real spirit apparently comes from
It's
a
from a
refrigerator.
weird refrigerator
With like a
box
weird
that's
tube,
over here
and
that Ted Levine gets in a car accident with.
Yeah, and then
he's got a
later
weird
somebody
friend
bumped
that
by
lives
it,
next
and
to him,
there's like-
and they both wear trench coats, even though it's obviously summer. And they wander around talking to people about stuff that doesn't make any sense. They go to weird people's houses.
Oh my god,
But
I
it's
love you
true.
guys so much.
It's true. You've seen the
Holy
movie.
shit, that trench coat fucking bothered the shit out of me. At one point, he gets a caught in his car door, and I was like, was that on accident? No, that was totally fucking
I
on
would like to point out
accident.
as well a weird sort of like, why did you do that?
I mean, the whole movie
The fact
is
that
filled
Robert
with that.
England is in it. The
In like
photographer guy,
makeup too.
the
They gave
photographer
him
guy
makeup.
who has no reason for him to be a younger guy.
Picture Man.
Yeah, no reason for him to be a younger guy playing him.
The
Who's
guy taking pictures.
Yes, who's wearing a fedora
His
and a
literal
Freddy
name
Krueger
is
covered scarf.
JJJ Picture
Look,
Man.
I don't know if anyone in our
What
audience
was
has
that?
seen this movie. I hope that they haven't. I hope that they've lived their lives and been very happy.
It's
But
fucking
everything
dumb.
you're talking about, like if you could,
Which
everything.
is to say, if you've seen it, your life is worth.
Nothing in
right?
this
No,
movie.
the only one
listen.
that likes this
Here's my
movie.
review of the Mangler. It's better than Needful Things.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all I'm going to say.
Chris Cox
We
defend
weren't
that movie.
we
No,
weren't
you have
bored.
to-
Well, I was
But
not
I think
bored.
we were punished by Needful Things, and I said, Russ, we're not finishing this.
Let's
And I was
move
like,
on
okay.
to what I think is actually the best movie we're talking about this
I
week.
hate this movie.
Which is 1408.
Wow.
Who wants to introduce this one and tell the plot?
I'll do it.
Oh, Phil.
I'll do it.
All right. So do you agree with me? This
I
is the
agree.
best one of
Yeah,
the
man.
sales?
I actually think 1408's a masterpiece. I really fucking love it.
Cool.
And,
Did you say a master?
Oh, yeah.
No, go on.
Yeah.
Just tell the plot.
Let him do his thing.
So, what's his name? Mikhail Hofstrom. Hofstrom?
With that many accent grabs,
There's
I
a-
have no fucking
Hofstrom?
idea.
Anyway,
look at that. That guy's got like two completely different accent marks over his letters, and we're
we've displayed our ugly Americanness. Go on, tell
if it's an A with two dots over it, you have to pronounce it as a Z.
I pronounce it as Motley Crue.
So,
anyways, continue.
the plot is about John Cusack. I don't know his character's name. He is a guy who doesn't believe Mike Enslin. There it is, right there. He doesn't believe that, ghosts exist and supernatural exist, but yet he does. He's a writer and travels the country viewing historically haunted places. And in that journey, he's even more displeased by not finding it. And you have a backstory that his daughter died at an early age of cancer and that he left his wife because he couldn't deal with it. And you have him get a postcard to check into the Dolphin Hotel in New York City. And while in there, he wants to check in room 1408. They tell him he can't.
Because multiple people have died there.
Yeah,
56.
Well, yeah, 56, and with him could be 57 people have died there. And he goes, well, you know what? I appreciate the whole scare and banter, and it'll get you more guests if I write a good review about it. So he stays there anyway, and bad shit happens. But the cool thing about this story is, I mean, I never read the short story, but in the movie, it's absolutely genius how they tie in all these nuances that you just don't even expect that they should tie in. Like the number 13 is tied into the movie at least like 25 fucking times. How you can find the devil so many
cleverly,
times.
Because it's never just the number 13.
No, you have to do math.
It's things adding up to 13.
Yeah.
Over and over and over and over.
As 1408 does.
And the cool thing about the story as well is it goes through every stage of grief in order, from denial, anger, depression, bargaining, and acceptance, all in order, and you see him go through that. I mean, the movie's smart. I mean, the numbers add up. The whiskey.
Kubler-Ross's 5 stages of
Yeah, that's the
death.
thing. They go through the 5 stages of grief.
That's amazing.
Of like through that, and then like you said, 1408 adds up to it. The movie runs at 1:44:08, and it is exactly 104 minutes and 8 seconds long.
Oh yeah, this movie's intelligent beyond get out. And you've got like the whiskey bottle he gets from Samuel L. Jackson in English literally translates to like the 57 deaths, and there's only been 56 in the room, and he could be 57.
Yeah.
He tells the receptionist, "My room is on fire." He dies by a fire.
The room is on fire.
No, don't even.
Yeah,
just stop.
Thank you.
Okay, get this. When he calls the guy to fix the thermostat, he goes, "Tap the mercury." It's 1408 is how many hours it takes in a day on Mercury. Like the movie is very self-aware, and he taps the mercury and makes it work again. And I dig a movie that spends that much time developing story and plot and thematics, and I have to applaud it because it was a short story that Stephen King only wrote based on like a how to revise a screenplay thing in a book he was going to publish. He goes, that's a cool
writing.
story.
On writing,
Yeah.
Yeah, it started as him like going, okay, well, I'll just come up with something, and wrote it as like, okay, so I just wrote this. Now here's how you revise the first draft, and then later went.
It's a
I
good
kinda
story.
like that idea. Like Stephen King, who goes to the grocery store and sees like a bug running across the floor and goes, "Oh, I've got an idea for 4 novels."
For sure. and to me, like, that was the cool part about this story was it had so many layers to it. It wasn't simple. The DP is fantastic. He went on to shoot the Stephen Hawking's movie. Good God, the one that won the Oscar.
Yeah.
Theory of Everything.
Yeah.
I mean, this DP is fantastic. He's shooting behind things, inside microwaves, inside refrigerators, inside alarm clocks. This guy's putting cameras fucking everywhere. And it was really cool, and John Cusack is fantastic. And it was my favorite movie I saw of the entire thing, with Cujo being second.
This was one of my favorite horror movies the year it came out.
I loved it.
I really liked it getting deep inside the head of this guy who was this cynical, who's very much like me, who in that way is like, I don't believe in any of the shit but I'm really kind of obsessed with it at the same time, which is very much me. I love reading about hauntings and possessions and all this stuff. I love reading about it. I don't believe in any of it, but there's that part of me that really wishes it was all true. And I get this character. I really identify with him, and him going into the situation where it's like, guess what? It's all real, and now you're going to be punished for the things that you've done in your life. I was like, wow, this felt almost personal watching this movie.
I agree with 100%.
I think with Cusack being so great with, like,
and I love Cusack.
Being the guy who has to deal with his own faults in such an immediate way, I think is a terrific automatic Cusack role. You're just like, it's a high fidelity as a horror movie, you know, 100%. The guy going back and going like, fuck, I totally didn't even think about what
just by virtue of him even being in the film.
My only complaint here is I think some of the CG is a little overdone and a little silly. Some of I think it's a little too much into the whole, oh, look at all the ghosts that in the room in before being a little too silly, where I kind of would have preferred I would have liked a more naturalistic point of view.
It is a fakey looking film in a lot of ways.
But overall, I was into this. And keep in mind, if you've seen this film, you may not have seen the exact same version everyone else has seen.
There's 4 different endings.
There's 4 different endings that are widely spread across streaming devices and DVD releases.
And countries.
It really depends on where you are and where you saw it, which ending of this film you've seen.
Wow.
Which I think it needs.
Was not aware
I
of
was
that.
completely unaware.
Yeah, there's
It's
4
not like
radically different endings.
He lives in 2 of the other endings.
Yeah, in 2 of them he doesn't. Yeah, and both those, even though both those 2 endings are drastically different from each other, it's an odd way to release a film, quite frankly, but the studio was very split on what was the right way to handle that ending.
And the test audiences.
I definitely prefer the versions where he lives. I think the version where he doesn't is kind of like, okay, so what was the point of all that?
I agree 100%. Like, I wish you would have
I disagree 100%. I did not like this film.
What?
I know. I'm going to be the odd man out on this one, especially since...
Whoa, man.
I know. Whoa, man. Sorry. No, I found this film to be so incredibly boring. The first time I watched it, it was better this time. The first time I watched it, I hated it. This time, when I watched it last night, I was like, oh, okay. It wasn't as bad as I remember it being. But I was just so bored. I felt like John Cusack talking to himself for 2 fucking hours was just like...
something I would watch in person on stage.
I agree. I'm into that.
Not my cup of tea. There was some pretty great special effects. We get the whole, like, oh, my daughter's dead thing. But, like, I just...
Sorry, that's an easy thing to, like, get over.
I mean, you guys know me, right?
My 10-year-old daughter died of cancer.
Daughter's dead. Get over it.
Oh my god! Will you stop talking about it already? No, I just was bored. I really was bored. I thought that John Cusack, it's like a bottle episode of a television show. Like John Cusack talking to himself for 2 fucking hours. It was just, after the first half an hour, the one part I did like was like a throwback from, I believe we talked about that before, was it Cat's Eye? Where he goes out on the ledge. Mm-hmm. That's fucking terrifying.
Feels like maybe it's a throwback, maybe it's just a coincidence, yeah.
I feel like Stephen King has very reoccurring themes.
He does.
And going out on the ledge, I think it was Cat's Eye.
It's a very Stephen King idea.
Yeah, and that part was really super terrifying.
That and it ain't my baby.
That. But otherwise, I was frankly, I'm over Samuel L. Jackson. I'm sorry, Samuel L. Jackson fans, but I am so over him as an actor.
But even in this movie, he was like trying to tell him. Everything he said was like, I am saving your life.
He was very subtle for Samuel L. Jackson, that's for sure.
It's a cool part and a cool character, right?
Yeah, I actually thought this movie could use more Samuel L. Jackson.
I agree. I wish he would have showed back up.
I think that's the best part. Is they used him just enough.
I'm super glad that I am like the bad guy right now, finally.
So you did not like this movie at all.
I did not care for this movie.
By the way, the 2 of them appeared again in another Stephen
King.
Which has anyone here actually seen?
Yes.
Oh, y'all saw it? I heard it was
I've seen it. I thought
it is not terrible. The first
I read
half
the book.
is very watchable.
I've heard a lot of bad things about the novel.
I read the book.
But
The book
movie,
was okay.
I like
the movie itself. Yeah, I think
First half it's pretty watchable for like a B movie. Yeah,
it's kind of clear that they ran out of money and they
ran out of ideas.
They just kind of shut.
There is no third act
together.
really.
Yeah,
it doesn't really build to a third act. But I think we just watched it on VOD and I was like, oh cool, they finally made Cell. Let's check it out. First half's pretty good. Second half starts to drag, and then the end is just kind of a disappointment. But
like a lot of King things.
Yeah, I don't know that it's. I don't know how. I think they changed the ending even. But as far as 1408, I saw this in the theater. I don't know that I've totally rewatched it until now. And
yeah, me too. I was like, I saw it in the theater, really liked it.
Yeah, really. I remember really liking it in the theater, being like, "Whoa,
I can't wait to watch this again," and just hadn't gotten around to it.
Yeah.
That's weird because I liked it better the second time.
And I was surprised watching this, how much I liked it watching it the second time. First off, the director, I feel like he's not a person that he directed a couple big movies. He directed Derailed, and he's directed some TV, but he wasn't, for a second there, I feel like Hollywood was kind of giving these big movies. They gave him this one. He's not a horror director, or maybe even a person you think would maybe like has horror elements where let's give him a horror movie.
He's directed a lot of horror movies.
Really?
Yeah. Evil.
Well, he has gone on to. Yeah, he did The Right now. Escape Plan, which is horrible.
Amazing.
But Derailed. So when he gets this movie, he has a very unusual style. It does not feel like a lot of movies. No. There's some really interesting, weird close-ups, like keys going into doors that are like macro.
That strange foreign style really adds to that sense of displacement.
There's a great deal of zooms in this movie, which isn't an effect a lot of people use, except very specifically. And the camera's zooming a lot. It's very uneasy. It almost feels like kind of late 70s, early 80s technique. And even like there's a lot of overheads, a lot of unusual camera angles. And the movie has a surrealist quality to it. It feels very dreamlike. It's very strange. You don't really feel like it's grounded in reality. And I don't know how much of that is purposeful, how much of that is just because they had to shoot on set, which they obviously are. But there's an incredible structural gamble in this movie where the movie resets itself at a certain point, and you're not sure, is this real, is this not real, what's happening? And then he plays with that, and I feel like this director really knew what to do with it in an unusual way. I don't know that he's maybe the exact guy, but he made an interesting movie. Cusack is great. I think this may be his last giant movie star role.
Yes.
I don't know that he's really in the film. I'll give it that.
He is an actor that I really do love, and I feel that in some ways he is skeptical of the movies he is in. And sometimes you can feel that in his performances. This is one of the last movies where I feel like that plays into the character in a really amazing way. And watching him be skeptical, is this real, is this not real, what's happening to me, is very exciting and interesting and plays into the horror of the film. Jackson's great. He's not in it a lot, but I feel he has one of the best roles like for that in a movie where he's kind of the guy who's like, this is what may happen in Neverland. Are you ready? Are you prepared for what's next? So I really like that. Overall, though, actually, there's a couple of really genuinely scary moments in this movie.
Yeah, I was going to say
there's a moment where he looks
really
across.
Great
he looks across to the other building, and someone starts to mirror his actions.
Oh, yeah,
and it's very creepy and weird.
But where that goes.
And where
that's really amazing.
Even before that, I'm just like, what's happening? And I feel unsettled by the film. And I think the movie pays off its themes. I feel very satisfied. The ending is a little weird. I don't know if it's the most satisfying ending.
You can see why they kept rethinking the ending.
Yeah, I just feel like it's very Stephen King in that, like, it sort of builds and you're like, what is the ending? Do I give these people a happy ending?
Unlike other Stephen King adaptations, like, he sucks at endings, people. That's just the name of the game.
Occasionally he nails it. And I think this one comes close.
I
was
not all the way satisfied. It definitely has the, did it really happen kind of ending? Like, you know, whatever thing. But I was kind of...
Don't you feel like... I assume you saw the ending where he lives.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I kind of want to see what happens next to this guy. I feel like this is just
I feel like the movie traffics in ambiguity and false starts in such a way that nothing in the movie can be trusted that you're not in the room and the room is fucking with you.
Yeah.
So no matter what ending they have, it's all called into question.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. You know what I mean?
It's not so much an unreliable narrator as an unreliable room.
Right. It's an evil fucking room.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, if I remember, is the best line in the movie. The audience lost their shit.
Yeah, no, it's just an evil fucking room.
Well, I was just going to say, one of the things I like about the Cusack performance is that Cusack really feels like a writer. He has a lot of rituals and routines, and he has a process, and that is part and parcel of what's going on within the narrative of the movie. So I really enjoyed that about the movie. The stuff with his little kid and his past, a little overwrought. It definitely was some of the stuff that it's good, but it's a little on the nose, and it kind of took me out of the movie.
Phil's is sitting here just nodding his head, like going "fuck you" and everything.
He's like, your life means nothing to me. Just give me a little bit of it. I lost my daughter to cancer. Yeah, Put me on.
Whatever.
It's a little much, but I do feel like
she's dead.
I walked out on my wife going to buy a pack of cigarettes.
It's not what it is, it's how they play it.
It's a little on the nose.
Same with his dad.
But I do think there's a scale to the movie, there's a budget to the movie that you don't feel in a lot of other Stephen King adaptations. Regardless of the fact that it's kind of a single location. So I do feel the movie benefits from that. As far as it is kind of an elevated horror film. Yeah, it was interesting. I remember listening to a podcast.
Unlike the other Stephen King things, it's classy as fuck.
It's so classy.
Wait, you guys like this movie, right?
Yes.
This is such a good movie.
I'm the last man out on
but
this.
It's good on a lot of levels. I mean, it's good as a horror movie, but I also think it's good as a film. It has a lot of really good dialogue.
I wish it didn't have Stephen King's name on it. Just take it off and just make it a fucking movie stand on its own. It would work.
Hey, haters gonna hate. Haters gonna hate
because Night Flier's next, and then you'll see why.
I'm gonna defend Night
Oh my god! Did you like Night Flier?
Do we have anything else to say, Russ?
No, I think. Well, I did want to say it was an interesting point. I remember listening to a couple of, or I should say, a few really good writers are credited with the screenplay for this movie. Matt Greenberg?
Matt Greenberg and Scott Alexander and Larry.
And like Karaszewski, who are more famous for doing the
super cool biopics
really
like
good
Man
biopics
on the Moon or People vs. Larry Flint.
So they did a really great, I think, job adapting the movie. I think the script is really good. And one of them made an interesting point that the producer had said that he had produced I don't know how many films, and he said this is the first film he ever produced that didn't have any rules. And I think in a lot of other films that would be a knock.
Yeah.
That the movie, especially in horror films, that the movie didn't adhere to its own rules. But I think that there is a sense in this film that anything could happen, and that's why the danger feels so specific and scary in this movie.
You're watching this film trying to decipher its rules. Because as you're becoming aware, like this character, you go in going like, okay, none of this is real, but then you realize it is, and it does have a set of rules, but it's incredibly hard to figure out what they are. I think that's
I think in a lot of other movies that would be lazy, and it would be a way to get around getting the movie to do whatever you want.
Why does hell need rules?
I mean,
and I agree with you. That's why I think this movie does a good job with it.
But in a sense, it has structure. In a sense, like you have an hour and the clock resets, and shit goes down.
And I think also, that a real problem in horror films is that ambiguity gets drained out of the movie. Yeah. And once it does, well, I think there's an idea that everything needs an explanation, and I don't know that in horror movies everything needs a goddamn explanation.
This movie is very cool with not explaining itself,
but in a good way, not in a lazy way.
Yeah, and that's not what the problem I had with this movie is. The ambiguity was
because
not
because you have a vagina, isn't it?
Oh my god!
I thought because if we were more popular, the internet would say it at some point, so we can address it now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
No.
You know what I love.
Let me tell you
something.
something. Vagina is very comfortable with ambiguity.
That's
what I know for sure.
I prefer a vaginal response.
Honestly,
but real quick, but
seriously,
things have gone amok. Let's allow patients to have our answer.
I really just think that if this movie was like 20 minutes shorter, it would be a better movie.
Well, if this movie were 20 minutes shorter,
it drags on way too long.
You like Firestarter.
Bro, that is a compliment and not a knock.
So, okay, real quick.
You always agree with me, except for this one time.
Was bad, but you accused her of liking Firestarter.
So, real quick, what I liked about the movie was John Cusack is
a great actor.
Great actor, but his character is every human being who has intelligence who watches horror movies. Oh, I get it. The janitor's doing this, or the busboy's doing that. Or,
that's actually a really good point.
And he's literally giving you reasons
the audience
for
surrogate
why.
To a T.
100%. And I love how he puts words in Samuel L. Jackson's mouth. You know, manager says it's the Phantom. He goes, "Oh, I never said that shit, motherfucker. Yeah. I said this, that, and the other, and that room's fucking evil."
Yeah.
And I love how every time he tries to put words in there, tries to make it a horror movie, tries to make it a horror story, Samuel L. Jackson comes back and goes, "No, it's just evil."
I thought John Cusack
and I love that about this movie.
The best part of this movie.
Every part about it works.
It's mainly John Cusack, but I love that he says, "Where's the ice-chilling terror and the rivers of blood?" And then he actually has ice-chilling room where the room turns frozen and blood coming down the walls.
Him fighting with the mini fridge was clearly
an experience we've all had.
For sure, they're so expensive.
Had that last night.
All right, let's do the Night Flier. I think outside of Patience, I would recommend this probably higher than any other movie on the list.
I think I'm the only holdout. I'm the only holdout.
All right, so Rob, you were like me. You actually enjoyed, for what it's worth, the Night Flier, so I want you to do the intro.
I liked Night Flier.
So, Night Flier is actually a fairly obscure Stephen King adaptation, and it's somewhat of a weird outlier. I mean, I just feel like it doesn't feel like his other work, but it's basically about a reporter for a sort of trashy National Enquirer type magazine who gets wind that there is a possible, I don't even know when he figures it out, like a killer who is flying into these smaller airports and taking out the people who sort of work there, and he believes there may be a supernatural element or something going on there, which he doesn't believe. He's skeptical. He's very similar, actually, to the Cusack character. He's this sort of skeptic and this sort of cynic who doesn't believe what's going on, but he's also a pilot, which I think is kind of interesting. Anyways, this adaptation should suck. I just think it's basically a Tales from the Crypt episode, and
it looks like cinematic.
It does.
I'm not going to defend this film on a technical, like a film.
I'm not, but I'm also not going to disparage it on a technical level, because I do feel like great movies often come down to one or two things, and that is good writing and good acting. And while I think the third act of this film gets a little abstract, doesn't totally pay off or work, I think generally this is a pretty sharp script. It's not maybe great, but it's good. It's a good B movie. It's smart. There's shit going on. There's mystery. There's character. Things pay off.
And it has Miguel Ferrer,
who is amazing,
and
one of the most
which I was about to say
performances.
Yeah, and which I was about to say
from him.
B. So great writing and great acting, and Miguel Ferrer and almost all the performances in this movie are good. Ferrer is great. I think he's always great. I mean, I love him in RoboCop. I love him in Revenge. I mean, I think he's a
If you're not watching Twin Peaks right now, he essentially is Sheriff Truman.
And real quick, have a drink.
No.
And have a drink. He passed away in January of throat cancer.
Indeed, he did.
Oh, shit. I don't think any of us knew that.
You know,
I did not know that.
pour one out, man. Guy's a badass. And his dad, Jose Ferrer, who was in Cyrano de Bergerac.
And Lawrence of Arabia.
That's right.
Damn.
So, yeah, man.
I know that. Wow.
He's pedigree. So, a really unusual, and then what we get to learn is that possibly that the person that he's pursuing is not just a serial killer or a supernatural serial killer, but a vampire.
He's got a great shtick.
Yeah, and while this should be...
and a beautiful cape.
And yeah, while this should be totally stupid, and it really should be, you should be like, oh my fucking God.
On a certain level, it is.
It is, but it works within the premise of the film.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's to its strength. So, probably, like Phil is arguing a little bit.
This film should be the Mangler.
Yeah.
It should be kind of a really bad, forgotten 90s Stephen King adaptation.
Oh, I thought you were going the other way with it, saying the Mangler could have been at least this decent.
You like the Mangler more than this one?
No, I like this more than the Mangler.
Right.
No, I think this is kind of the Rosetta Stone movie of all the Stephen King movies. Like, it's that movie that should have been better than it is and had more attention paid to it. I love the idea. There's a news reporter who works for a weekly world news type thing in a world of Stephen
like the
King,
Daily Mail
where
or
all
some
that shit that happens in the weekly world news is actually real.
There's
where that shit really happens.
many references to other Stephen King.
There are a lot of Easter eggs in the movie.
It's ridiculous.
They go to the you see a bunch of titles of their previous issues. Spring Heel Jack Strikes Again is referring to Strawberry Spring, a Stephen King story. Headless Lamaze Leads to Successful Birth refers to the breathing method.
Great.
Kitty cultists in Kansas worship creepy voodoo god refers to Children of the Corn. Satanic shopkeeper sells gory goodies refers to Needful Things.
Boo!
Naked demons leveled my lawn refers to Lawnmower Man.
Yay!
The ultimate killer diet, Gypsy Curse flays fat lawyer's flesh refers to thinners.
And so on.
It
and
refers
so
to
on.
Derry, where it turns place. It features a scene where the characters talk about a school teacher who murdered a group of 5-year-olds because she thought they were plotting against her, which is from the story Suffer the Little Children.
Yeah.
Richard Dees, who was the protagonist here, also appears in the Dead Zone, where he is the guy that Ferrer is playing. He's the guy who tries to interview Johnny, the psychic. He's like, if you watch the movie, he's the name of that character.
So many Dead Zone tie-ins today.
Oh, I know.
Makes you wonder if he was sober during Dead Zone and just goes, you know what, I'm going to tie everything into that.
Right.
And also, Stephen King has said that he thinks the vampire from Popsy is the same vampire.
And I actually looked up Popsy, and I've read that short story a dozen times, and I'm pretty sure it's definitely the Night Flier.
That's the thing. I'm kind of like, they're doing that new show, Castle Rock, that's supposed to tie everything together, and I'm kind of like...
I'm super excited.
I kind of wish they would just take this character and make him the primary element. Make it a Stephen King investigative reporter show in a world where all this Stephen King shit happened, going, Maine is ground zero for the fucking
I would watch
Stephen
that.
King
I would watch that. I
hellmouth.
totally agree.
You know?
But can I just say, I feel like the Night Flier, in a certain sense, lives up to the promise of that premise. Like that idea of the tabloid reporter investigating Stephen King type supernatural events is in this movie, and that's one of the reasons I really... And, obviously, you're going to put Miguel Ferrer, the always great Miguel Ferrer.
Who's kind of like the precursor to Nightcrawler, in my opinion.
That's what I think,
He's such a fucking piece of shit.
And the movie addresses that in many ways. The movie's organizing principle of a vampire feeding off the dead is analogous to Miguel Ferrer's character. That's
true. Like the reporter is like a scum-sucking piece of shit.
Feeding off the corpse.
Feeding off the dead. That's a great analogy. The other thing I really liked about this movie, I actually did like this movie, much to my chagrin, because I went into it with a bad attitude.
Had you not seen this before?
No, I've seen it before.
I feel like every review of this movie should start with, I like this movie much to my chagrin.
Much to my chagrin. But Miguel Ferrer is excellent. He's a great bad guy / okay guy.
He's a really good anti-hero,
He's definitely not a good guy.
I mean, he's not a good guy, but he's not necessarily a bad guy. And then there's that one pretty girl that's actually married to the director who no one's ever heard from again.
Disagree.
He did do Fender Bender, which is
just came out last year.
It's a low-budget film on Shudder. Not great, but if you're looking for kind of like a popcorn movie, it's okay.
Okay.
All right, just throwing it out there.
But I do think this film promised something more for him. I feel like he could have had a more interesting career.
And I'm glad to see him come back. In my notes real quick is it says flashbacks. The SBs are going to fucking love this film because you guys love flashbacks.
Oh, the SBs.
What's
the sons of bitches.
Yeah, exactly.
You and your Ghosts of Mars flashbacks.
You guys have been shortened down to SBs.
This feels disparaging, but go on.
This saves me a
lot.
lot.
I don't know how I became a guy that loves flashbacks.
Because you love Ghosts of Mars.
Okay, so what were you going to say?
I'm just happy that I've saved some syllables going forward. That's all.
This again falls under the whole thing where it's like there probably could have been 50 other scripts that were better than this to make, and you put Stephen King's name on a short film, and you put it together, and oh look, we all love it now.
I sense a running theme with Phil's critique.
But
Stephen
it's
King.
not that. It's half a good fucking movie. It's half a good movie. And I get that I like the premise that there's a vampire who has to use a plane to fly around. That's cool. That's interesting. I haven't seen that before. And I mean, I like the fact that Miguel Ferrer, he's fantastic in it. And I like that he's a son of a bitch and he literally is a vampire feeding off the dead. And I find that interesting. But there's so many things about it too where I'm like, just things they didn't like add up for me. When I'm watching, I'm like, it's okay. And literally, 75, 80 minutes go by and you finally, you get to see the vampire's face. It's the movie's never scary.
No, I don't think most of the movies you watch...
A lot of Stephen King movies aren't scary.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And so you've got to go, is it a horror? I mean, there's a vampire in it.
1408 was kind of scary.
No.
That one had
I'd put that one closer to scary than a lot of his
For
other
sure.
movies. Yeah.
That one and the Silver Bullet are the only two that actually have, like, scares. Cujo had one. The dog barks at the windshield.
Suspenseful. I think it's suspenseful.
Sure. I'm saying a lot of these are not scary.
I don't agree with that.
Like, a lot of them aren't scary there.
Scary, okay, yeah.
No, it's not scary at all. But there's that wonderful sequence where when it builds up to the final airport, which I really like.
I like
where
that scene
he
too.
is like, okay, fine, you want me? Here I am. Look at what you've wrought. Look at what you're witness to. Here it is. Here's all these people I've brutally murdered, which are pretty good effects.
The final act
cool
was
looking.
pretty good.
I really like that whole sequence where he's like, was I that desperate to be successful that I really wanted to be this deep into this? I thought that was actually kind of frightening.
No, it wasn't frightening. It was cool. It was interesting.
It can be both.
No, it was
I think there was a feeling of dread and weirdness.
I just never felt it when I watched it.
That's fair.
And I'm watching it and I go, oh, it's cool. It reminds me of a book I read called The New York Graphic, and it's about, a tabloid reporter who's a son of a bitch and does horrible things like Nightcrawler and whatnot. It was cool. But again, I think it benefits from the fact that Stephen King wrote a short story and some guy sucked him off and was like, hey, let me make this short film. And then it goes...
I'm pretty sure Stephen King doesn't have to suck anybody
Phil's
off
not making
since
any
his
Stephen King adaptations
well, where I'm going,
anytime soon.
and what's interesting is I read an actual article, was Mike Pavia, and he was talking to...
The director of the film?
Yeah, the director of the film, talking to Bloody Disgusting, and they were like, well, what happened with your career? Because 19 and a half years went by between Fender Bender and this. And he goes, well, I had a film set up and it took 3 years to get going and something happened with financing and that fell through. And then 2 more years went on another project and that fell through. And all of a sudden 5 years go by and you haven't made shit. And they go, what happened to Pavia? Oh, he's cold now. He's not a good director anymore. It's hard to recover from that. And this guy, suffered from that. And what, props to him because The Night Flier is not a bad movie. It's not a bad movie.
I would rather see more movies from this guy than a lot of people.
I agree.
In the last 20
and I'm
years.
glad. And
we've talked about in this cast.
Yeah,
for sure. And I'm glad he was able to stick with it. 19 years go by and make another movie. But it's the shitty part of it all is part of why I don't like Night Flier is why his career went on hiatus. You make a movie based on, I've got a Stephen King story and I'm going to do this and that and the other. Just have the balls to make a fucking cool movie on your own terms. And maybe your career would have gone further faster. Who knows? The guy's got talent, but it's like that movie. I mean, it meanders for so fucking long, and it's about a guy who's an asshole. And I promise you, Miguel Ferrer probably ad-libbed at least 75 fucks in the movie. He just says fuck every other fucking line.
But that's part of what we like about it.
But I like it when I'm watching Usual Suspects. I don't like it when I'm watching The Night Flier. You're a fucking reporter who flies a fucking plane. You're not that cool, dude. You're not that cool.
But it is interesting what you point out is that most of the directors that we're talking about don't, at least in the movies that we picked, don't go on to make more stuff. Even Stephen King himself. Not movies, not features.
True.
Which is sort of
so is Stephen King the director?
Well, no, but Stephen King. Maybe we're in the final thoughts. I don't want to interrupt.
No,
but
this isn't highly suspect.
We can still do final thoughts.
No, but we do want to summarize.
Thinking,
but what is it about Stephen King? Because Russ and I talked a lot about this. Like, what is it about this guy? Like, when we talk about his movies.
To that.
Okay, well,
his movies aren't that good. He's got 5
Okay,
good
his
ones.
films. Okay, maybe, but you were talking about a guy, whether you like him or not, who's a person you will grapple with in horror and science fiction in a way that you don't grapple with almost anybody. Like he casts a shadow.
We would say the same thing about Edgar Allan Poe if he was alive today. Movies are being made.
Also
because he wrote a lot of short stories, and people can actually option short stories to make movies out of them, and that's why we deal with a lot of shitty Stephen King
short stories. Well, what did you want to say, Patience?
I think that Stephen King brings to the table his characters. He's not. I mean, he's notorious for not being able to like end a book or end a movie, and I mean, I'm not talking about his adaptations. I'm talking about Stephen King himself. His characters, for some reason or another, everyone can relate or identify with, or like be like, oh, that's me in some way, shape, or form. His characters, the idiosyncrasies of the characters, they're all just they have so much depth. And even in a stupid, like, 90-minute film like The Night Flier, you get to know those characters and who they are as people.
They felt forced to me.
But that's the director's fault. That's not Stephen King's fault. That's the director's fault.
But all of his films, you feel like the characters fall flat.
No. He's got great films that don't, like Stand By Me.
But of all the ones we watched today, the characters don't. Okay.
And Shawshank Redemption. And
why do you think Stephen King is like based on the films that we just watched? If these are the only Stephen King movies you watched.
Just one last.
No. What do you think?
That movies get financed with his name above the fucking title.
Agreed.
Fucking period. It could be the fucking crap shitter. Stephen King's the crap shitter. It would get fucking made tomorrow.
Well, I feel
if one half-assed director.
I feel like that movie was made and it's called The Mangler.
Carpenter, though.
No,
like,
it was not.
John Carpenter.
But do you think that they're completely...
Wes Craven's Dracula 2000.
Exactly.
I mean, it's...
No, but
and did that not suck?
Yeah, it
Thank you, my
But
fucking
that's not
point.
really a Wes Craven movie. He didn't direct it. He didn't write it. Someone else directed and wrote that
But he's
movie.
absolutely right. Stephen King is used as an excuse to put out shit.
Agreed.
They stamp his name on something.
I mean,
takes
Steven
a
Spielberg
paycheck.
is a genius, and his name is on some serious
A
fucking
lot of
crap.
times it's not even Stephen King directly saying yes. He sold a bulk of stuff to some company,
sure.
and he has no control about it after that.
And even if he did have control, sometimes his stuff's just not good.
No, agreed.
He's got great stuff out there. It's like 20% of his stuff is genius. 80%'s trash. And the thing is, I just don't like worshiping the 80%.
Yeah, if I was capable of writing as much completed work as he was, I'd be like, ha, 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 suck me.
Yeah. There you go.
You can't deny, though, I mean, I don't love a lot of Stephen King. Like, I don't.
No.
I think
I'm
this
the
is
same
junk
way.
or it falls apart, but...
But sometimes
especially
he
in
writes
the
stuff,
90s. He fell apart in the 90s.
Sometimes he
does.
writes stuff that's
He
fantastic.
does. There's a lot of movies where I was like, I don't want to watch that.
His
Like,
coke days were his best days.
No, we cannot.
but I mean, like, what was the fucking Mitch and Emmett cat movie? The fucking
oh god.
The what?
Sleepwalkers?
Sleepwalkers. Like, there's a lot of movies where I was like, we're not watching that. Like, that's not a good
Did you
movie.
guys watch that anyway?
No. And
I wanted to put Sleepwalkers on this list right now, and you guys would hate me
I was like,
even
no.
more
And
than
the
you
number one thing
already.
that I disagreed with was we cannot put Graveyard Shift on here because that is probably one of the, like, top 5.
Because it's clearly so much better than the Mangler.
No,
it's not. It's not.
not.
Graveyard Shift is like top 5 most painful movie going experiences I can possibly think of. But is there a reason we're sitting here talking about this guy's stuff? Like, I mean, like, I really actually enjoyed this assignment. Like, I Silver Bullet, Maximum Overdrive, Cujo, 1498, Firestarter, Night Flier. Like, these are movies that I really like. Like, these are movies I would watch even without this show. Like, I would be like, fuck yeah, man, let's watch Russ. We're watching Cujo. And Russ would be like, yeah, let's watch Cujo. The Mangler and I feel like Needful Things exemplify what fucking sucks about King. Like, bad adaptations, probably bad source material. Maybe Needful Things is good. I don't know, but it's crap. The Mangler feels like, you know, something you wrote when you were fucking high and you were drunk. Like, and then there's like a laundry machine and it kills everybody in the whole town. Like, I mean, what the fuck? Like, it's terrible. And so to Phil's point, like, yes, like, that is crap. You know, but I mean, like, his command of this medium is something you have to grapple with in pop culture, regardless of whether or not you like it. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's important.
It affects everything.
It does. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And I think Patience's point is very good that Stephen King's third acts generally seem to fall apart.
Dude, the Tommyknockers is like one of the worst things I've ever wasted my time with.
And it's why I think we're interested in what Kubrick did with The Shining. That Kubrick was not afraid to say, this doesn't work, I'm going to do my own thing.
Or Darabont with The Mist, you know?
There you go.
I don't love The Mist, but
I'm saying there's two directors right there that stood up to King and go, I'm doing it my own way.
But
and
still,
now you've got a great movie all of a sudden.
But are his ideas inherently cinematic? Are his ideas worth making into movies?
But whose aren't? I'm telling you,
lots of people fucking have terrible ideas for movies.
No, I'm telling you, there's a million people that have great ideas for movies. The guy literally had a few hits, and then it's just like boom, boom, boom. Like, there's a lot of short films that just... They make them into movies just because it has his name, and that's fucking it. And
look, he has junk. I mean, what was the Langoliers? Like, terrible.
He has a lot of junk.
I like the Langoliers.
Oh, you would.
Get the fuck out of here.
I love you, but you
Cox,
would
what's up,
like
man?
the
Cox is on a coke bench right now.
Jesus
He doesn't even know if he's seen the
Christ.
Langoliers.
You got some?
Cox likes Langoliers and Tommyknockers. I'm rage quitting. I'm rage quitting.
But I mean, like we talked about a lot of things. Like we talked about maybe Storm of the Century or Rose Red. Like there were a lot of things.
Rose Red was okay.
But I know. But my point is like we debated his material.
Yeah.
Because we're like, is this worth watching? Is this worth including? Is this? And so I don't know that I have a definitive answer.
I think when you add cinema into the equation of novelist, you pollute the waters. I think had every one of these directors been like a true director, like had Cronenberg directed all of these, we'd have a whole different fucking conversation.
Oh, we're going to
if
talk
Cronenberg
about
did the Night Flier. I'm just throwing out...
You're right. I mean, you're right.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Like, I mean, but I feel
we
like...
can't treat a writer as, like, a filmmaker. It's two different media.
They aren't. Well, yeah, obviously. But I do think there's that interesting idea that people get into with something like Jaws or The Godfather, that there are films that are not necessarily great novels, but they make great movies. And I
because
think
of great directors.
Okay. Fair. You know what? I will totally agree with that. So, but don't those great directors need something to leap off of? I mean, is there no Francis Ford Coppola without Mario Puzo? Is there no Steven Spielberg? I mean, there's no Steven Spielberg without Carl Gottlieb. I would say.
Eventually.
Or Peter Benchley.
And there's no Stephen King movies without Dino De Laurentiis, honestly.
I mean, a lot of that is...
He produced, all of his
No, but
films.
you look at... I mean, we didn't talk about Carrie and like...
Well,
you know,
because
I'm just saying,
we've talked about Christine and Denzel.
No, but I'm just saying, like, I mean,
because Carrie is one of the undisputed good.
But I'm saying,
King
like,
movies.
but I'm saying,
I promise you, if you put Dino De Laurentiis on, like, the integrity scale, he'd be a negative fucking 10. I mean, it's for the money! I fucking promise you.
But he made junk, and then he would inadvertently make great stuff.
Yeah.
So.
He was in it for the money, man.
There's a lot of great movies that came out of that system of, like I don't give a fuck, whatever, because the rest of the creators
He
wanted
made
to make
literally
a good movie.
all of the movies
Yeah.
in the 80s and 90s.
Well, I do think also, I think one of the things that's important and one of the reasons we reviewed Stephen King is, it is, as much as we can say Stephen King is, for better or for worse, probably one of the greatest authors of the last 50 years.
Absolutely.
Back in, for
whether
important, and I'm sure and I'm sure other people would dispute, what's literature, what blah, 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 because I'll put Stephen King up against Jonathan fucking Franzen any day of the week. But my point is that I don't think you can divorce Stephen King's literary work, as significant as it is, from the movies that have been made from it.
Well, one of the reasons
they're very much
popular is because they could make movies.
Right, they're very much inextricable.
And one of the reasons why I pushed so hard for this episode, because this is all my fault, listeners, sorry.
Don't you dare apologize.
I will not.
And you can vote for her execution at www.oneofus.net
/killpatients.com.
But one of the reasons why I pushed so hard for this episode was because he is the quintessential horror master. Like, we would not...
Whether you like it or not.
I mean,
it's the way Romero owns zombies.
Literally, I mean, we've only... we did 8 films today, or this week, or this month, but...
And how many of them weren't even horror,
How
though?
many times in our past episodes are we reviewing a Stephen King in a movie? We did Dead Zone. We did Christine. Like, we are constantly reviewing Stephen King movies.
It's part of the conversation.
I mean, and we're going to continue to...
At least as far as horror cinema, and
I think he's not a director, and we usually do director episodes, but he's
a director. He direct one thing.
By his own words, he's
not a director. But he's definitely
I disagree
an
with Stephen King on that.
He is an influence, and there is no getting away from that. We're always going to be surrounded by him, regardless of whether or not we like it. And
let's wrap it up.
That's a good wrap-up point.
Listeners, if you have an idea, write them down. You could be the next Stephen King. Just write lots of shit. Because you could be the next Stephen King.
That's actually, please.
Keep writing.
Tell us on our Facebook page, Deliberations of Doom, what would you like to hear us talk about, or ramble about, or get shitty drunk about?
Yeah.
Let us know on our Facebook page.
Because we'll do it regardless.
We will, yeah.
And let me once again remind you guys, as I did in the first episode, our very own Phil has a movie 200 Hours.
Oh, God.
That is, we're trying to make sure plays Fantastic Fest, because we all think it's really, really good. Also co-written by Jason Murphy, who a lot of you guys know from Spill.com and Modern Rogue and multiple other things, Rage Select. Email programming at fantasticfest.com and send them a message. We want 200 hours to play Fantastic Fest, because that's a thing that we all
want
think
Phil.
happen.
Okay.
We want Phil.
All right.
We want Phil.
All right.
Phil, look at he's blushing.
Yeah.
He's like,
He really is.
you guys.
All right, let's wrap this up.
All right, that's it. We'll be back in... Have we decided what the next episode is going to be?
I think it's going to be 90s horror movies.
90s
We'll go from there.
So you guys, we're not doing 90s, these super obvious horror films. We're doing like ones that we're like also like we think you guys need to know about this.
Just
one
ones
that
we
was
like from the
amazing.
I know what you did last summer, too.
We're not talking about that one no matter what I do.
Veto.
The last thing I do, we will not talk
Veto.
about a Kevin Williamson film. We will not. It's not going to
But keep screaming.
Keep screaming.
Keep screaming.
Oneofus.net has been your one-stop shop for all things geek for years. But there's a side to them many of you have never heard. The subscription side. Subscribe and listen to great podcasts like The Breakfast Pub, The Original Gentleman, and the Watch a Movie With Us series. Head on over to oneofus.net and don't forget your towel.